Kaivalya Klim Kaivalya Klim Kaivalya
Namaste. Welcome to Kaivalya Yoga Gurukulam for the class in Kaivalya Marga, the path to oneness. Not only oneness in the body, mind and spirit in ourselves, but oneness as a global experience, as a universal experience, as the ultimate experience in this path of spirit. As always, let us begin this class, this satsang, with 3 ohms. So we will continue our journey into these 5 elements, and we are continuing to learn the Agni Tattva, the fire element that exists in the Manipuraka area and the region of the navel. We studied food habits, we studied the importance of maintaining heat in the body and how the Agni Tattva, the fire element, represents light in the eyes and in the feet. In the last class, we touched upon a very important, subtle, and very powerful subject. How do we nourish Agni in the chitta, in the mind? At this stage in our learning, I might mix these 2 terms just for colloquial ease. Chitta and the mind. There is a technical difference between the 2. We will learn this as we go along. Perhaps we'll get a better idea when we study the Devi Khadgamala and we are coming to the understanding the word chitta. And then perhaps we'll become more conscious and use these terms more mindfully. But at this point I mean the chitta, but I use the word mind because a question will arise, what is chitta? So let us understand at this point, it's the mind. Chitta is more than the mind, but mind is part of the chitta as well. So we are understanding how to nourish. We understood how to nourish Agni in the body, right? Through food habits. We laid the foundation there. There are many, many questions more. We understood body types and then laid the foundation of the right kind of choices in food, and how all that helps to keep the fire alive. Now when we come to the mind, we understand that the best way to control the Agni, to keep this little flame alive, so that it continues to provide the warmth, the light, the clarity, just as you have vision for physical body, you have the sense of perception for the mind. The mind begins to perceive. In other words, the awakening of buddhi begins with the grace of the Agni element. Because Agni element gives you the power to see, quote unquote see. That means the mind will be able to see things. The buddhi will be able to perceive. That is why I said nourishing the chitta. So in the last class, we studied a very powerful, very beautiful mantra of Lord Kartikeya, the son of Shiva. And having taught that mantra, I was very strongly guided to share more of that with you, because the time seemed to be so correct and so perfect that I don't want to miss this opportunity, though it may or may not fit into the scheme. It does, in a way, and I'll explain why. But there are certain things I just cannot let go when the time in the cosmos, the stars and everything seems to be perfectly in the right place at the right time. It doesn't matter when you might see this video. Of course, some of you are seeing it live now, and all of you right now are seeing it live, but there'll be some of you who might be watching it a few hours later, a few days later, a few weeks later. But then what happens is the potency of these teachings is not lost because it is sent out into the space at the right time. I pay value and attention to that. It's just my belief at this point, if you want to understand it that way. That's how I feel. I feel guided to do that. And I won't hesitate in doing that. That period of hesitation and not wanting to share out of some unknown fear and all of that, shyness and fear and all of that is gone. And now it is time for me to boldly share these things, because these are lessons, these are energies that have guided me, continue to guide me every day, keep me very close to my Sadguru. And there is no other way I can share those other than showing you the path and sharing with you all as a brother, as a friend, as a fellow pilgrim in this journey. And that's how I see myself for many more lifetimes to come. So, with that humility and reverence, I offer these energies to you, these learnings as guided by the divine. So in the last class, we learned the Subramanya mantra. It is a complicated mantra. It is a long mantra. But nevertheless, it's one mantra that takes care of all the 6 chakras and brings into balance all the 5 elements. The 5 elements, 6 chakras, 5 elements, don't get confused. 5 elements are the 5 elements that cater to the physical health of the physical body and so on. And of course, also to the mind. But then beyond that is the 6th. And so that enters into the world of chakras, because beyond the 5 elements, you have nothing else, but even the mind ceases there. That another aspect of the mind gets born, if you will. So that one mantra takes care of the 5 elements and the 6 chakras, all of that. So I felt guided to share, and I felt very happy at the end of it. Now, when you listen to these mantras, it is perfectly okay for you not to tune into it at all. It just means that the time has not come. But if you feel curious and if you say, okay, let me try it, that means the time is coming. So, and you might lose interest after a while. You might say, I don't know, it just doesn't click with me anymore. And let it go. Don't feel guilty about it. This is your path, your spiritual path. Allow the divine to open the doors for you. Don't say, Sundar told us I have to practice this. It doesn't work like that. You cannot, it might. That's the purpose of sharing, right? But the point here is, I'm basing this on the response I've got and the types of messages I've got. Don't feel guilty if you cannot tune into it. If you cannot tune into the deity or the mantra, it's okay, just let go. So today I'm going to share with you another series of mantras. Some of them end up being very simple, and you'll say, aha, why didn't you tell me this before? But it has to be done at the right way, in the right manner, at the right time. So bear with me. Let me get to it right away. Because we are talking and continuing this understanding of nourishing the Agni element. Remember, that is what this practice is all about. And how to make these mantras effective and so on. Because they are sound energies, we will understand it when we go into the Akasha element, space element. So all this learning will come together and fit into all this, fits into that overall puzzle, one by one. Okay, so be patient in this path. This is why I am taking time to teach this and go into detail as much as possible at this level. Okay, let me go to the slide. So once again, we prostrate at the feet of Shiva at the Arunachala temple that represents the fire aspect of the Shiva consciousness. So in today's class, I'll begin with continuing the importance of the Son of Shiva. Now, for those of you who are from India and who have an exposure to these principles in India, it is easy and difficult in the sense we get mixed with the religious aspect of it. And then there is fear and the God getting angry and all of that comes in. Now that is one side of the picture. The other side of the picture is we come from the north of India or the south of India or the east of India or the west of India, and each of these have hundreds of years of tradition. That makes it more complicated. So if you're from the north and you have grandfathers and great-grandfathers all in the north and you have had generations in the north, then if I'm sharing about Kartik, Lord Kartikeya, the son of Shiva, you might say, I've not heard much about him. And he's supposed to be a bachelor. What is he doing with two wives in South India? So, and from the South India is very different, right? The son of Shiva, Ganesha in South India is elder to Kartik, who is the younger one. In the north, it's the other way around. Kartik is elder, Ganesha is younger, and so on. All these have other deeper meanings, but it's because of traditions and practices, they kind of go into different paths. These differences and paths are only very superficial. So put aside those differences and geographical, cultural barriers aside. Now it is easier for somebody from the West who is listening to this saying, okay, you know what, thank God, I'm not into that. I'm fresh, so I'm ready to listen. In a way that is good. But what makes that difficult is they are so new to this whole concept, it's very easy for them to say, you know what, this is just way too complicated. I can't do this anymore. So there are both sides of the picture. But put aside for now, when you listen to these classes or listen to these talks, just put aside any conditioned mindsets and say, well, you know what, let me listen with an open mind. That is what Shravanam is, right? We started this whole Kaivalya Marga with that. Listen. And then contemplate on what you listened when you have free time. See if it makes sense to you. And then assimilate what made sense to you in your life. Then it begins to happen. Never get into any of this out of fear and all of that. Doubt is normal, curiosity is normal, but fear is abnormal. There should be no room for fear. As I always keep saying, mantras become less effective when not chanted correctly. They do not harm you. They don't have effect. When chanted correctly, with understanding and bhava and feeling, and you bring the mind's energy, the potent energy of the mind into these, then they assume tremendous power and efficacy and begin to help you at all levels of your life. Okay? But that's the beauty of it. Never do things out of fear. All right. Kartikeya. So today, if you see, you must have already perhaps read this, what's on the slide. Shri Kartikeya Shakti Mantrani. Mantrani means a set of mantras belonging to Kartikeya. What are these set of mantras? These are for the 6 chakras. Each mantra for a specific chakra, all of them related to Kartik Bhagwan or Lord Kartikeya, or the energy of Shiva that he projects as Kartikeya. Because it is through that Kartikeya he brings Parvati towards him. So that Kartikeya becomes the instrument of bringing Shiva and Parvati together in our spiritual journey. Our Shakti, our divinity, which is Shakti principle, is dormant. And when she rises to meet Shiva, it is Kartikeya in us that needs to guide. So we need his energy and his blessings in that sense. I feel gifted that I was born and raised in South, because this was my, they call Ishta Devata in India. In other words, you're born in the house where they all worship this. And so the stories of the Son of Shiva and growing in his mantras and all of that became so natural. So I'm very honored to be part of that. And it is perhaps this has become a great influence in my mind, correct? And all I can do is share with you what I know and what I practice. I am not a philosopher. I don't pick up a book and say, let me teach this to the world. I can't do that. If this is part of my sadhana, I will share it with you. Because what we are doing here is, I want to give you a proof of concept, saying how beautiful is this path of spirituality. And when you practice these things without fear, without inhibitions, then the path opens up. Some of you may, therefore, tune into these mantras. So why Kartik mantras, and why at this point right in the middle of the Agni? Because Agni contains a Vayu called Samana Vayu. And we'll study that Vayu more in detail when we come to the understanding the Vayu element, the air element. That air, that prana, that Shakti in the center of the belly, the power of Chi as Qigong calls it, and prana as yoga calls it. And as Krishna identified himself as Vaishwanara Agni, that Agni, as Vedanta calls it, it gives and spreads out the food that you get through all the 5 elements. Prana comes in through water, prana comes in through food, which is earth element, prana comes in through the sight and heat of the sun, so that is prana. Prana comes in through the breath, life force comes in through the sound. All of this is assimilated by this fire element, the Agni Tattva, and then distributed throughout the body. So that fire element, that chakra there, the deity that controls us, is this Kartik energy. Because that is the commander-in-chief of the army, fighting all, building the immune system, keeping the fortress, if you will, healthy of the mind, fortress of the mind, fortress of the body. So kshetra means field. Field is what? Field of the mind, field of the body. This consciousness that Sundar has enveloped himself in at this point, this consciousness has to become clean and transparent, so he can see that he is much more than that. Otherwise, this transparency is lost, and I feel I am this and nothing more than that. So that energy brings in light and energy and clears it. Kshetra Palaka. So Kartikeya is Kshetra Palaka. And it so is the right time for us to understand and study this mantras at this point in time, because we have incurred that energy and we have invoked that energy in the last class. We will continue in that same. There are 6 temples, for those of you who do not know, dedicated to the 6 aspects of Lord Muruga. All these 6 temples are in South India, in and around Madurai and so on. And there is a 7th temple in Kanchipuram. I'll come to that towards the end. Each of these temples, as it has been understood by me, revealed to me in my prayers and in my meditations, I want to share it with you. The first one is the Taladhara Chakra. And if you recognize this temple, it is called Tiruparam. Tiruparam Kundram. This is where Kartikeya gets married to Indra's daughter. Indra, there's a story goes, that's a Puranic story, right? What is the symbolic meaning? Therefore, we have to understand. Indra is the heightened mind. Indra is the king of devas. He's above this chakra. And his daughter he gives. In other words, his mind, there is the energy of the mind right from the Muladhara. A small portion of this mind, which is his daughter, is in the Mooladhara as Devyanai. Devanai is son of the Senapati, Deva Senapati. That is all. Devasena Pati is Lord Muruga. He is the husband of Devasena. Devasena is the name of this lady. The energy of Indra. He gives his daughter in marriage to. In other words, this energy descends to Mooladhara and holds the hand of that mind of ours and gently brings her up. So that is the beauty of this understanding. That's why marriage of Murugan happens with Devyanai here. And being Indra's daughter has a specific significance. Indra is also the lord of the Swadeshtana. There are some schools that consider Indra as a lord of the Mooladhara as well, the energy of Indra, being the deity there. So that makes it even more easier to understand. So Indra has a connection with the Swadeshtana and the being the lord of the senses, being the representation of the mind, the higher mind, the awakened mind. So his influence is there on the Swadeshtana and the Mooladhara. But in us, in you and me, Indra gets confused and becomes lost in the Mooladhara. In other words, he thinks he is his daughter. In other words, he becomes smaller. So when Murugan goes there and marries that daughter, it means that Indra also begins to realize I am the father-in-law of this. In other words, the idea is the mind begins to understand what it truly is. Again, I'm using the mind very colloquially here for ease of understanding. Tiruparakundram is that. Mooladhara is that. What is the mantra here? And I say these to you because this is how I practice. All these mantras are taken out of the 108 names that is chanted to invoke and praise and meditate upon this particular energy, the son of Shiva, that we understand as Kartikeya. Kartik Bhagavan, Kartikeya. So the Mooladhara mantra for this is Om Sharavana Bhavaya Namaha. Sharavana Bhava we already touched upon in the last mantra as well. And I explained to you in the class that Sharavana is the grass. Sharavana is a type of grass. It represents the earth element, in which finally the birth of Murugan, birth of Kartik happened. So that Sharavana is there. He was nurtured by 6 angelic beings, the Kritikas, and then each of them nurtured one baby. The 6 of them were born, and then Parvati hugs them and they all become one child. So that Sharavana is the birthplace of this. In other words, represents the earth element. So Murugan goes down there and finds his consort and begins to rise. So when we meditate on the Mooladhara, Sharavana Bhava is a great mantra. These are called Bhava Sadhanas. Especially these 6 mantras are called Bhava Sadhana. Bhava Sadhana is, don't worry about, you have to understand the meaning and feel the bhava and the connection with the deity. There is a lot of devotion here. There is a lot of communication that happens and understanding that happens. So you are the earth element. You are the one who was born of the earth element. So help me raise my consciousness, not get lost into these tall weeds. Help me get over this conditioned mindset, right? That is the kind of attitude. You're not spelling anything out. You're not saying anything, all of this. But that's the attitude. With reverence, humility, you are just simply praising the Lord that was born here. Your own divinity. This is Kartik Bhagavan in you that you have to invoke. This is what I keep saying. We have to invoke to make the God in us, in our home, in our space, pratyaksha. How do you invoke them? How do they give you a sign that they are there, watching over you, are there, present, right? That omnipresence is what we are craving for. And in that presence, everything happens. You don't have to spell out what you want to the deity. So that reverence, Om Sharavana Bhavaya Namaha. That is the mantra from the Mooladhara. Om Sharavana Bhavaya Namaha. These are not Vedic mantras, so you don't have to worry about going up and down and correct. As long as the pronunciations are correct. Sha. Above the S, there is a stroke, so it becomes sh, not s. Sha, ra, va, na, bha, va. Sharavana bhavaya namaha. Om Sharavana bhavaya namaha. You can say it, you can sing it, you can chant it, however it makes sense to you. This is the mantra for the Mooladhara, connected to the Kartik, who is the Lord of the Agni Tattva. Okay? See, like I said, I touched upon this a little bit. In Mars, the planet Mars in astrology is connected to vitality, to the richness of the blood, and to health and vigor and youthfulness and all of that. The ability to do exercises and be vigorous and light in your body, all of that is to a large extent connected to the Mars element. Intelligence, intuition, all of that is connected to Mercury element. So Mars is that powerful aspect, and the deity of that planet in the Jyotisha Shastra, in the Vedic astrology, as practiced in South for hundreds of years, the main deity is Kshetrapalaka, which is Lord Muruga, and therefore we are invoking this energy. So Mooladhara, Sharavana Bhava. Because see, ultimately I'm telling you this again, why did we touch upon food with Agni? All kinds of health problems can be resolved if you take this holistic approach. On the one side, food, yes. On the other side, mantras, yes. And then we'll come across kriyas and asanas that we can do. So this holistic practice makes you in tune with this Martian energy inside you and me. Then it doesn't matter where the Mars planet is placed in your horoscope. That efficacy, the power of that planet, if it is weak, it becomes more powerful. If it is more powerful, it becomes more graceful, and so on. So Sharavana Bhavaya Namaha. Sharavana Bhavaya Namaha. Om Sharavana Bhavaya Namaha. Mooladhara. Then comes the Swadeshtana. Swadeshtana, the second temple that is dedicated to Muruga. So there is a story here where Kartik Bhagavan apparently gets angry. Never mind the details, I don't have time for that. We will come back to this more in detail later on when we study the chakras. We'll come back and explore this more. But just to give you the idea, and this timing of this time of the season after Shivratri is a very auspicious time. Because in another 2 days, 3 days time, in Kanchipuram, a great festival is going to happen where the marriage of Shiva and Parvati takes place. So this whole period is a very, very auspicious period after Shivratri until this marriage of Shiva and Parvati. That it's a tradition, of course, but then it is all connected with a larger scheme of things that happen in the cosmos. So it's a great time. Anyway, Swadeshtana, Muruga gets angry, or Kartik Bhagavan gets angry, and then the story goes that he renounces everything. He wears a loincloth and picks a staff and goes into the hills and does penance. He controls all his senses and goes into deep penance. Control of the senses, control of the tongue, all of that is related to Swadeshtana. Where does he go? He goes to this hill, Payani. So the story goes there, but our Payani is in our Swadeshtana. So there he is an ascetic. He is an ascetic. He is a yogi, controlling the senses, especially the sense of tongue. We studied that in the water element, right? Connect that and understand. Water element, Payani, Swadeshtana. There, he understands the secret energies within him, right? So, the mantra here is Om Guhaya Namaha. Guha. Guha is one who is the Lord of all secrets. Guhaya Namaha. Om Guhaya Namaha. He is the one that controls things that are otherwise hidden from our mind. Because why? Why is it hidden from our mind? Because the mind is covered by senses, information of senses. There's so much data that is constantly coming in. We can't even listen. It's like there is so much traffic noise, you can't listen to what your friend is speaking across the road. You can't. Right? Especially in India, in a road in Bangalore, some of you, if you're from there, you can understand what it means. You can't. Why? Because there is so much traffic noise. And therefore, the mind cannot even perceive. The Agni cannot clear that path for you because it's clouded by senses. Therefore, Om Guhaya Namaha, you invoke that energy which begins to clear that. Om Guhaya Namaha. Also culled from the 108 names dedicated to Lord Muruga. Om Guhaya Namaha. This is the Swadeshtana Chakra. Then Manipuraka Chakra, there is an easier mantra that I would chant when I don't get the time or when I don't have time to dedicate a long session into that other Panchadashakshari, the 15 syllables that I said. Because I would never chant these mantras, oh, by the way, like driving or walking or running. For me, it doesn't work like that. I take time, and when I take time to chant, I just go dive deep into it. Even if it's for a few minutes, a few times. I don't go with set number of times to be done in a day. Then I'm just keeping up some weird goals in my mind. But it'll all fall as you get into a disciplined lifestyle, everything falls in place. So the simpler version of this mantra, Manipuraka, but what is this temple? This temple is the Agni, the center where Kartik Bhagavan is in his full armor, ready for battle. He is there in all his glory, in all his power. That is the Tiruchandur temple. It's on the seashore. This temple is so powerful that even though it was below sea level during the tsunami, and the tsunami came in, it didn't do anything to this temple. This temple survived, right? That's the beauty of the waves. Couldn't go anywhere near. The wave also didn't come. It was not like the temple was flooded and all. The waves didn't even reach the temple. It was directly in the path of the tsunami. Everybody knows the story by now. But the beauty, therefore this energy is very powerful. The eye of Murugan looks straight into the sea through the keyhole of the outermost door of the temple. It is amazing. It's a huge complex. And they built that. They were able to maintain that accuracy. Anyway, Tiruchandur is that energy, very powerful energy of Lord Kartikeya. And that mantra there is Om Subramanyaya Namaha. Subramanya, where all the Brahmanas, everybody worship you. All the knowledgeable ones, all the priests, all the wise ones, everyone worship you, and therefore I call upon you. You guide me. You help control this fire. You take care of my health. I leave it to you. That kind of a beautiful mantra this is. Om Subramanyaya Namaha. Brahman, Subramanyaya Namaha. Okay, a very beautiful word itself, Subramanyaya Namaha. Subramanyam. Many of you from South have this name, Subramanyam. And that is the beauty of that. The power is in the name itself. Manipuraka Chakra the flame is controlled and activated by this mantra. Then comes the Anahata Chakra. Anahata Chakra is the heart. The heart chakra. If some of you recognize this temple is Tirutani. Tirutani temple in South India. I put these names there. You can copy them down or write them down and Google more about them if you're interested. In this temple, it is strange that in the idol itself of Lord Kartikeya, there is a hole right in the center of his heart. It signifies the heart chakra. Here he is once again the god of love. Here it is love. In Mooladhara, it is more like an arranged marriage. But in heart, he gets married again to Valli. Like I said, when we'll perhaps revisit this concept of Valli, his one wife and the second wife, when we understand the Vayu, because there is a deeper meaning to that. Okay? So we have to understand that. At this point, just take the story and go along with it. So here in the heart chakra, he gets married again to another one. This one he falls in love with. It's not an arranged wedding. It's not like Indra comes and offers his daughter and there he gets married. But here he seeks out this this girl who lives in the forest, and just a wild girl. not a princess, nothing, no names and nothing to be fancy about, and yet he marries her. Valli, her name is Valli, in the story, in the Puranas. In the heart chakra, so the heart chakra represents, we all know, represents love, represents emotions, represents the power of the mind through the aspect and understanding of love. And so, Tirutani is that temple dedicated to the heart chakra. And here, the heart is what? Prana. That is the life force of life. Without love, there is no meaning to life, right? People die forlorn if they don't have love. There is no life in them without love. Prana. Om Pranaya Namaha. Again, culled from the 108 names of the Murugan Ashtotram. When you think that he is the life force of me, he is the one who protects my life force. He is the one who is going to keep it alive. He is the one who is going to nurture it and bring it vitality and strength. And there is so much love that brings prana. Miracles happen out of love, sheer love. There is nothing other than love in the law of miracles. When Baba saved me from the cobra bite, many of you know the story by now, it was just sheer love that caused that miracle. And his love was so selfless, so straightforward that he said, no, it's not a snake, it's a thorn. He dismissed what was actually a snake in a flick of an instant, when it was already 25 minutes past and I was bit and I was slowly sinking. That's a different story. Love was the main reason. And Baba himself says that love is God. And God is nothing but that love. Love, not emotional love, attachment to our children, attachment to our parents, attachment to our siblings and our spouses, and what we understand as love in these day-to-day terms is one part of this love. It is attachment. But attachment is not different from love. It is one small subsect of love. It is a small manifestation of love. But love truly is an expression of that oneness. In the oneness principle, once the Shiva consciousness is there, the only thing that exists is love. The only thing that exists is love. That is what even Tirumular, in a very beautiful text devoted to yoga, and as we go along this path, we will, God willing and guided, we will study that as well. He begins saying that is God is love, love is God. Shiva is just nothing but love. But it is not easy to understand, appreciate, or practice, or even experience that kind of love in its fullness. Because in that love, there is no self existing. If you and I say, I want to experience that love, and put I right in the first and love at the last, I want to experience that love. Love is last, I is first. That love never comes because I is standing right in the middle. Let go of that I, let go of that want, let go of that experience. All that remains is love. But that will come. That experience comes, and that beauty of that comes through Om Pranaya Namaha. I say that it comes because when I begin to experience that even a little bit, the whole being just is aflame with so much joy. It is unbelievable. Unbelievable. That joy can never be matched by anything that the senses can offer. Nowhere even close to what the senses can offer. And that is why we practice more yoga, more meditation, more Namasmarana to gather the energy to even bear that joy. That's the beauty. So Om Pranaya Namaha opens the heart chakra and helps you to understand that. He's the one who guides you to these. Tirutani is that place, that temple. Then comes the Vishuddha. Vishuddha stands for what? Throat. Throat stands for speech, mouth, sound that comes out of your mouth. Space element. What is the temple? For those of you who can recognize this is the entrance to that temple. I got these pictures from the internet. I've been to these temples, but I've not had chance to take pictures because most of the time I'm just in my dhoti and no shirt, and I don't get to carry my camera. And when I enter these temples, I just want to be completely lost. But anyway, So this is Swami Malai. Swami means Lord. Swami Malai. It is believed that at this very spot, Kartikeya taught Shiva the meaning of Om. Swaminatha. Swaminatha means he is the Lord of the Lords. Murugan sat, so the story goes that he sits on the lap of Shiva, and Shiva playfully tells him, oh, you know the meaning of Om, let me know. And then he whispers the meaning of Om to Shiva. In other words, the entire wisdom of the universe is contained in the Om, right? He explains that to Shiva. In other words, at this point, let us understand that that energy of the sound, Om, contains the wisdom of the universe in it, lying dormant within. The Guru Tattva, the Guru Vani, that's why we say Guru Vani, speech of the Guru, the words of the Guru, and so on, so on. We pay so much attention to the sound that comes out of the Guru. That is Swaminatha. And so, Murugan here is the Swaminatha from Swami Malai. Swaminatha. So the mantra is Om Swaminathaya Namaha. Om Swaminathaya Namaha. Om Swaminathaya Namaha. There is a lot of feeling and emotion in these mantras. There's a lot of meaning embedded in these mantras. So, that is why I said earlier, some of you may not tune into it. Don't feel guilty about it. Read about those stories and begin to understand and then tune into it. Maybe it's grace that might open the doors for you. Om Swaminathaya Namah. Even if you don't chant the mantra, if you sit on and understand the energy of Shiva's sun in each of these chakras, that itself is very powerful. But when you add these mantras, the mind tends to get a little bit of focus, a little bit of discipline, and then sparks begin to happen. And then the invocation, the manifestation happens when we chant. Otherwise, we can be talking forever, thinking forever. But when you chant a mantra, when you sing the name of the Lord, the manifestation begins to happen. Why? Because even in the Old Testament, the Bible, it says that the world, at first there was the word of God, and that word became flesh. And in Sanatana Dharma, we say Om. It all goes back to that word, the sound. From sounds and vibrations and frequencies manifests everything. Om Swaminathaya Namah. So when we chant that sound, disciplined manner, magic begins to happen, trust me. And you all know this by now. I mean, many of you would have experienced this in so many ways. It is just reassuring that what you experience is not simply a coincidence. It's true. We chant and chant and chant and chant, and he shows the presence, and a manifestation happens, and you get a sign. You're like, wow, this is amazing. And you get encouraged to do more and more and more. Om Swaminathaya Namaha. And then comes the sixth chakra, the Agnya Chakra. This is the home of Kartikeya. Beyond this is Kailasha. So he comes here, he guards the entrance of Kailasha. He sits here. So this is Agnya. Agnya Chakra is where all the Ida, Pingala, all of that merge. Right? And therefore, that is the Paramudir Sholai, a forest of fruits and herbs, divine fruits. That is what it is called, Paramudir Sholai. Param means, in Tamil, Param is fruits. So a lot of fruits and rich abundance. Abundance. Not today, but in many yugas ago, this place was. That portal still, of course, is the portal, the energy of the portal never changes. It's never disturbed by shops or any of that. We can never defile this in any manner. That's a divine portal there. If we go to these portals and allow our mind to rise above the distractions, you will recognize the portal. Otherwise, you get caught in the distractions. Say where puri you get and where idli get, which idli is better and where you get all of this. And like in Varanasi, you get lost in what to eat, what to buy, the silk saris of Varanasi and so on. But when you rise above that, suddenly a portal opens up, which is most amazing. These are those portals. Today, we don't see that fruits and orchards, but there is tremendous abundance in that. Paramudir Chole, where finally It is believed Kartikeya settles down with both his wives on either side. In other words, Ida and Pingala, both of them sit on his side. And they all merge together. They begin to rule all the 6 chakras. From here, he begins to safeguard all aspects of our lives, physical, mental, spiritual, all of that. So there, the mantra is Kaivalyaya Namaha. Again, drawn from the 108 names of Murugan. Ashtotram. Om Kaivalyaya Namaha. Here the door opens to oneness. The door opens to oneness. Once this begins to open, your life will never be the same again. All the joys that we talked about, opening all the other chakras, comes when the grace flows from that region above them. And so Kaivalyaya Namaha is where the energy of Lord Kartikeya opens our doors for us. And then there is the Sahasrara. The Sahasrara is where you are Brahman there. There is nothing, it's just Brahman energy. For those of us who understand this Murugan energy, who appreciate the Murugan energy, who worship the Murugan energy, then in Kanchipuram, there is a temple called Kumarakotam, his fortress, his kingdom, right in between Shiva and Shakti. Now his wives all have merged into him. So Kaivalya has happened. Now he sits finally in between Shiva and Shakti, meaning all of them become one in Kailasha. Kumarakotam. In Kumarakotam, that is the name of the temple, a very, very beautiful temple. I never miss a chance to go there and spend. I've spent many hours there sitting in meditation and chanting the 15-lettered mantra. It is a very, very divine place. Trust me, it's beautiful. It's a small temple, but it's beautiful. In that temple, the story goes that Murugan ruled as Brahma the entire cosmos. He ruled from there. There are many stories to this. Because the story goes, and let me quickly say that, the story goes where he asks Brahma the meaning of Om. And Brahma doesn't know, and nobody else knows. So he locks Brahma up. And so creation comes to a standstill. And all the gods plead, and therefore Murugan says, I'll do that. I'll take care of creation. And then he takes care of creation. It seems he runs creation from that particular portal. What does that mean to us symbolically? It means that ultimately he sits with Shiva on one side and his father, his divine father on one side, his divine mother on one side. With Shiva and Shakti, he rules the whole universe. Right on top. And what is the mantra for that? Very beautiful. That mantra is Om Parabrahmane Namaha. Om Parabrahmane Namaha. Parabrahman. Parabrahman. The supreme Brahman is also Murugan only. That energy of Shiva is what? Shiva only. There's no difference from that, right? That energy that came out of Shiva brought in the aspect of Shakti back into Shiva, and everything is absorbed into Shiva, and therefore this energy also becomes Parabrahman. Om Parabrahmane Namaha. If you do want to meditate on each chakra, and you are unable to visualize each chakra and all of that, because there are so many books and so many schools, I've never really, in my sadhana, sat down to visualize a chakra. I've never done that. I've never felt the need for that. And yet, divine grace happens. Because of mantra, sound is far more powerful than your ability and my ability to visualize. Because visualization to a large extent is borrowed. But when they present themselves to us, the visions that present themselves to us upon this awakening of fluttering of these chakras, that is different. But for me, it might be different for you, but for me, visualization is last in my list of meditating on chakras. It is the mantra, the energy, the sound, the pattern, the bhava, the attitude, and the focus. And to me, these mantras have really, really guided me. And therefore, I humbly offer it at your feet, at the altar of KYG, for all of you to consider and see if it helps you. Okay, so these are the mantras, the 6 mantras the 7 mantras, when we bring in the Sahasrara, the 6 chakras and the Sahasrara. Sahasrara, I always keep saying, is not a chakra. Sahasrara is the ultimate state. So you can't reduce it to a chakra. But 6 chakras and the Sahasrara. We'll revisit this at a much later date in more detail when we understand chakras. But for now, you can begin your sadhana if you feel guided. As I said, this is a very holy period to start. And let's start. Last year we were guided unknowingly. It just happened that we started Hanuman Chalisa in this period, and one thing led to the other. And look at that. In the last 1 year, and March 27th, we'll celebrate an anniversary, and which is another 3 or 4 days, right? The point here is numbers really don't matter. But the point is how, when you start something on an auspicious time, knowingly or unknowingly, it takes off. And therefore start in all earnestness. Any of these sadhanas with prayer. And if it's meant to be, it will guide you. The divine guides, and divine never lets go. It never. That divine energy is real. It doesn't depend on your belief or on your faith. You just have to invoke. And so the magic happens. Now, let me give you the easy way out as well, because I want to finish with these mantras today. Shakti mantra, one of the mantras for nourishing Agni in your body, in your mind, and in overall consciousness, is a very beautiful energy. Matre namaha. Om, Aim, Hreem, Shreem, Shri Matre namaha. This energy is so powerful. It clears. For those of you who are afraid of Rahu, and if you know a little bit of Vedic astrology, and the Rahu has the ability to cloud the sun, and I'm going to go into his dasha, and that period of his Rahu lasts for 20 years, what do I do? Have no fear. Shri Matre Namaha. Because the inherent Deva, Pratyadi Devata of that energy of Rahu is Durga. So Shakti is inherent in that. Don't get afraid. That's why I said, always keep saying, don't be afraid of any of these. We will study Vedic astrology. Let the divine open that door and the time and the space for that to happen. It will happen. Because that completes all of this. Otherwise, questions remain to be answered. It gives you the complete approach and understanding of how we are truly cosmically linked to each other. And we are one. The mantra here is Om, Aim, Hreem. Why did I bring Rahu and cloud? Because Agni represents the ability to see. Our sight, our perception, our vision gets clouded. And so Om, Aim, Hreem, Shreem, Shri Matre Namaha. Very beautiful, very sweet, very powerful mantra. If you think, I can't tune into Kartik Bhagavan, but I can tune into Devi, go into Aim, Hreem, Shreem, Shri Matre. Matre means you're calling out to the mother of the universe. In other words, the source of all creation. Right? Aim, Hreem, Shreem, Shri Matre. For those of us who tune into Shiva, and you can go in all these mantras, you can try out all these mantras. They're all beautiful, right? For those of us who tune into the Shiva mantra, a very powerful, very less known mantra for whatever reason, is Hara Hara Shankara, Jaya Jaya Shankara. It is a rhythm, and all of these sometime, I'm working on them, I'm not making a promise, but I will be recording them separately so you can go on listening in a nice beat, because these are not Vedic chants and we don't have to, can put a nice tune to it. Hara Hara Shankara, Jaya Jaya Shankara. So how many Ra's are there in this? Ra is Ram, Ra is Agni element. Hara Hara Shankara, Jaya Jaya Shankara. So Hara 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 Shankara, Shankara Shankara. So Hara Hara Shankara, Jaya Jaya Shankara. Hara Hara Shankara, Jaya Jaya Shankara. Hara Hara Shankara, Jaya Jaya Shankara. Very powerful mantra. You don't need to do a Om here. You don't need to do a Namaha here. This is an energy of its own. When mantra starts with Hara and Hari, you don't need Oms necessarily. You can add if you want to, but you don't need. Hara and Hari are very powerful energies. So Hara Hara Shankara, Jaya Jaya Shankara. Shakti and Shiva. Then comes the last 2 mantras I want to share. Here, this is called the Maha Mantra. We all know these mantras. We take them for granted. The mantra is Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. So you see why I said don't be afraid if you can't tune into Kartik Bhagavan. Then these mantras help you. Those doors will also open. Then you'll get guided, because these are all energies playing a particular function and doing the work of serving us, allowing, because they see us as an extension of themselves. We see them as different from us. But in the divine plane, it's all an extension of one consciousness. And so there is no self to demarcate one from the other. Anyway, Hare Rama, again Ha, Ra, Ram, 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 Ram. Maha Mantra. This mantra is known to so many of us. It doesn't make it less powerful just because it's very common. Again, this can be sung, this can be chanted, you can sway your body, you can dance to it. Very, very, very powerful, very intoxicating mantra. One of my very favorite mantras, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. How many Ra's are there? Look at that. Just the Bijakshara, the Bija mantra of Ra itself, so many times you're repeating it in this. And then comes even more simple and some of the most powerful mantras, Ram. Just Ram. Ram, Ram, Ram. You can do Sita Ram. You can do Sai Ram. Sita and Sai calm down the Agni. They bring balance. Sita Ram. Sita means cold. The name itself means cold. Ram is fiery. The solar dynasty, the sun. Sita represents the moon, so it brings a beautiful balance. Sita Ram. Sai Ram has the same effect. Sai, for those of us who have him as our Sadguru, it becomes his benediction comes. So you can add an Om Sai Ram, Om Sri Sai Ram, or simply Sai Ram, Sai Ram, Sai Ram. These are, Sai Ram is a mantra by itself, a very beautiful mantra. If you substitute sorry for Sai Ram, if you substitute thank you for Sai Ram, if you substitute, hello, hi, Sai Ram, how are you? We do that, right? Or when you pick up the phone and say, Sai Ram, Sai Ram, Sai Ram, how many days I have not talked to you? Those don't become chanting mantras. I can't tune into that. For me, when you chant and when you say Sai Ram, there has to be that respect given to that. I try to be very conscious when I say those words. Otherwise, it is just very easy to say that with no meaning to it. When you don't attach importance to that meaning, attach importance to that sound, then that sound begins to lose its efficacy in the deepest corners of your mind. And it becomes, okay, everybody's saying, I'm also saying, and it has no effect, literally. But when you say, I'm going to chant it only 3 times, but I'm going to do it with full focused attention. Otherwise, when it's time to say thank you, I will say thank you. When it's time to say hello, I will say hello. When it's time to say namaste, I'll say namaste. But I won't unnecessarily mingle these words. So think about that. This is just my perspective. Om Sri Sai Ram, Om Sai Ram, Sai Ram, Sita Ram, Ram Ram. All these are very powerful mantras, very powerful mantras. Take time to meditate upon these mantras. Many of us have these names as our names. You're blessed to have these names in you. Meditate on your name if you have these names, because there is energy in these sounds. All of this nourish, nurture, maintain the Agni Tattva in the body. That Agni not only provides perceptions to the mind, provides vision to the eyes, but that Agni represents the centerpiece of all health, all abundance, all spiritual awakenings and progress, and in every aspect of our life. Without that Agni, we will be dead. Agni symbolizes life. Agni is what Krishna associated himself with in the Bhagavad Gita. That Agni in the pit of your stomach is the core energy. And these are the sound energies, the mantras that help awaken these energies, that fire element. I consider myself most honored to be able to share these thoughts. I claim no credit for any of this. I don't claim any copyright for any of this, because none of these, they are given to me and I'm passing it on to you. For you to consider. I'm not even saying that this is the path, you must do this or must do that. This is my way of sharing it with you all. Hey, this is what has helped me. You can try it as well. Open your hearts in spirituality. Allow the divine to guide you and see the magic of these 5 elements. These 5 elements are scientific to a certain extent, right? There is fire. I mean, water is water, earth, elements, and it's a very scientific basis and all that. That's one part of it. But there are very many other ways to tune into these elements that form creation. And the innumerable patterns and the orchestration of these 5 elements is in so many dimensions that it is too many for us to fathom. That is the energy that is lying dormant in each of these elements. How do we harness these energies? And a fraction of that begins to guide us, help us awaken our own divinity. So we begin to realize that there is a much bigger consciousness that lies in me. I am part of a much bigger consciousness. The light is in me. I am in the light. I am the light. And with those words, I bring the satsang to an end, to this class to an end. The next class, hopefully, we will move on to other aspects of learning how else to nourish Agni. What other practices can we do to nourish Agni? We'll touch upon some kriyas that we can do. We'll touch upon some asanas and so on. So let the divine continue to guide us as we explore these divine elements, knowing that each of these divine elements are manifestations of the one Shiva consciousness. It is that approach, it is that attitude I approach these subjects. May Shiva continue to guide us and bless us. We'll end the class with one Om